every single person in the room knows what they should be doing at any given time during a Skrillex joint. It's not like you're confused about which section you're in, you know?
You're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
I've been thinking a lot this whole year, I feel, about how important the simple things are. Like that one piece of advice I got from Luke on think about when your sound ends, not just when it starts. Like that, I feel like sometimes in my sessions, I tell somebody that and they're like, mm-hmm. And like, I have to be like, no! When the sound ends, and I like have to emphasize it like 10 times because I'm like, it's so important. Like, I really want to convey how much you should focus on that this week and not the cool sound design shit we just talked about 15 minutes ago. Go in on that, you know? And obviously, like, everyone wants to do the cool sound design shit and the flashy shit, but it's like, I don't know, man. How do you guys feel about that? Like, you guys have been at it for a while now, too, and every year I feel like going back to those things is the biggest breakthrough for me.
Man, I feel that it's a balance, right? Like, if you have terrible sounds, who cares when they stop? Sooner, please.
Oh my God, that's fucking hilarious.
But if you've got killer sounds that never end, who cares? It wasn't a song. It was just me dicking around on a modular synth at Moonsplatta's house while we smoked weed for hours. It was great, but until we chopped it into little chunks and, like, you know, beat it with some other stuff and had that other sound come in and then no sound for a second, it wasn't a song. It was just us being high guys with a bunch of cool Euro racks in front of us.
Y'all listen to Little Snake? You probably don't, but
lay it on me, man.
Okay, so Little Snake is this fucking sick, like, neuro left field producer chick, but that is one thing that, like, I mean, I'm sure she understands what she's doing with her own music, and I'm not critiquing her music at all, but that is basically her thing. It's like so many fucking cool sounds and textures, like, next to each other. And then, like, I saw her at Shambhala and, like, legit, like, so next level sound design. Everything was just, like, absolutely mind-bending that I was listening to, but almost no one was dancing because it's like every 2 beats, like, the snare goes away and you get this sound that's like, you know, and it's like, you know what? I can't even, like, bob my head to this. I'm just going to stand here and appreciate it. And, like, that's kind of the extent of your previous point where, like, the best fucking sounds, the best sounds still won't make people dance unless you put them in an arranged groove and spend some time thinking about how they flow together.
Well, and not only that, but thinking about horizontal versus vertical energy. Like, again, I feel like that's another simple concept, but you can go in on that every year and get, like, every year I'm blown away by that concept when I figure out new ways to use it or new ways it applies. And, like, I think, I mean, by the way you described that sound, it sounded like a long horizontally sort of sound. And I think really paying attention to that horizontal versus vertical energy is a huge thing that I've seen ninjas struggle with, not because it's hard, but just because they didn't have that perspective. And as soon as they fixed that, the whole, like, danceability factor came in, or the whole textured lushness factor came in, and finally they could make sense of, like, how to get people moving. And I really like Dylan's analogy in that video.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite weekly downloads of all time, for real. Like, maybe the biggest overall mind blower weekly download I've ever actually had. You know, there's been so many good weekly downloads that I refer people to all the time, but actually understanding the way you compose and the way you use a whole set of elements, like silence, like note length, like how many semitones are between adjacent notes in this melody, those kind of things, how loud and quiet, like the amount of dynamics there is, all these things change the way people physically move from this in your lush breakdown, oh, I bet this drop's going to be good once we get there. And then like ramps up during the buildup, like, okay, I know it's coming. And then straight up to this when it's time to bang your head and go crazy. And it's like, all you have to do is look at what you're doing and know a few things about the basic building blocks of your arrangement. And you can even see it. Once you know it, you can look at the DAW and be like, yeah, that drop's got some problems.
Totally. Yeah, I think it is kind of taking it back to even one larger macro level. I was having this conversation with a student the other day. He was about, a year into his production journey, and he wanted to know some cool sound design tricks for this and that. And basically it came back to the larger point that, most of your time spent when you're learning stuff in electronic music is like, how do I make this cool Skrillex bass? And if I could just make a bass like that good, people would care about my music. And like you jump to that step 100 times, like the next like cool shiny object, and you forget that you're actually you're still writing a song. Skrillex tunes aren't just good because there's screechy dubstep sounds in them. Like they've got such a good natural flow of energy and rhythm, and they do that concept that we just explained like effortlessly. Like every single person in the room knows what they should be doing at any given time during a Skrillex joint. It's not like you're confused about which section you're in, and so like that, like learning how to consistently write a song should be the first and foremost thing that you spend years on before you start putting on the 8 other hats of mixing, mastering, sound design, how to, do this mids processing separation thing, like all these crazy things that we now just obsess over because we're conscious of the fact that they exist. But like you said, I constantly find myself spending the most time, the better I get, not on those little bits. Like I'm always like reorganizing like which kind of techniques I'm using for certain things, but like that's all in the last 5%. Like 90% of my time is spent finding the golden idea of which the song will be a good song revolving around this idea. And then in that last little bit where I'm like, how do I make all this shit cool, is where all those things come in. And it's like such a paradox, because it's like most of what you think you should be spending your time on actually doesn't help. And all of those little bits that take years and years and years to learn, now when you're actually good, you only spend like seconds using those things at the end, and all of your time is still spent on the thing that you should have been spending years on before you got to this point, which is finding the pieces that make a good song. It really is an interesting thing to come back to, and couldn't be overstated in its importance.
Amen, man. Completely. That's why I love the dojo's focus on, there's plenty of lessons out there on how to do different kinds of sound design and different mixing tricks, and all these very important shiny things that you're talking about. But where we really start people is with like, no, pick a song you absolutely love. Okay, now break it down piece by piece in the arrangement exercise. Put it in your DAW. What is the kick doing for the whole song? Now, what's the snare doing for the whole song? How does that change from the build-up to the drop? Was there even a kick in the build-up? Was it the same kick as in the drop? Because I see a lot of new producers do that. Like, all right, this is a good kick. Let me use it through the whole song. But if that huge kick is whomping during the build-up, and then it whomps just the same at the very front of the drop, it's like, okay, well, this isn't really a drop. This is a continuation, which makes it feel more horizontal, as like opposed to I built up to something and now I'm on another level. and now I want to headbang, because that first huge kick literally slammed my head into the floor.
Human Music Podcast. I like it.